Hello, MouseHunt. Welcome to Feedback Friday. Today is July 15. Didn't know what day it was. Just July 15, 2022. My name's Dave. Big hello to everybody in the chat. Hopefully everybody is doing well today. Looks like we have 90 Mouse Hunters hanging out with us this morning. Good morning, afternoon, or evening to everybody out there. A lot of familiar faces. Hello, Scrib. Nicholas, KDM, Zapsky is the chat is moving fast. KDM, I think I already said KDM, Zapsky, Ronan, Tony, Jason, Math Awakening, hello to you. Many hellos in the chat. Hello, Eileen, Eric, Yudoshira, hello, Bile. Morning, Dave, morning to you as well. Alex, the very best, 1981, well, hello to you as well. Hopefully everybody is doing well today. As you can tell from the description of the video, we're going to do a little sneak peek at the Folklore Forest. It's coming along awfully well. Everything's on track for release. So we want to give a little sneak peek as well as get some feedback on the pre-release phase as well. See how players felt about that. And a little bit of behind the scenes as well. We'll look at a little bit of concept art and making of, that sort of thing as well. So I'll bring in Dev Norm, who's been quite involved in the Folklore Forest as well. Good morning, Norm. How are you doing today?
Good morning, everyone. I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Glad to hear it. Well, again, reminder too, if you're just tuning in, the release is Tuesday, July 26th. If all goes according to plan, barring some catastrophe or unforeseen event, I don't know, if half the team was sick that day, maybe we postpone to make sure it goes smoothly for players. But other than that, everything seems to be on track, going well. It's going to be a region with 3 new areas. Needs the legendary looking glass, and you need to be Archduke, Archduchess, or above. So, that's it. Just in case there's any confusion with the posts, you need that title, you need the legendary looking glass, you'll have everything you need. Generic Potato chimed in there. Pre-release was cool, but the amount of failures to attract in the fungal cavern from casual hunters you've seen is way too high. That's a good segue to see kind of what was everyone's impressions on how the pre-release rolled out. Norm, have you tracked down everything?
I did, yes. It was, I had to wait and watch for other people to discover it first, obviously, because I knew all the answers. But yeah, the minute I was able to, I went and did all the steps. And yeah, the Silth is tricky, even with some high tier traps. The Silth is deceptively difficult. So that's why, one of the choices we had made along the way was the second step. If you're using the Spore Charm in the Lagoon, it was a guaranteed catch as long as once you eventually attracted it. Because in an earlier iteration, it wasn't a guaranteed catch, and that got frustrating very fast. When you're like, it's hard enough to attract with the charm, and then you miss, and then so we wanted to make it as seamless and painless as possible. But yeah, the Silth is not an easy mouse, that's for sure.
I mean, it takes me back all those years. Came out the 3rd birthday of MouseHunt. The event was re-released 3 new kind of boss mice, big antagonists, if you will. It was the Dojo Sensei, the Silth, and the Big Bad Burrow. And they remain as some big tough mice to this day. Script says pre-release was nice, but it felt a bit short. Also, Jesco there, I like the. Are you sure you have do you have the wrong date for the release? Just making sure you know that Dave's bad with dates, but yes, that looks to be correct up there.
They know you so well, Dave.
Danny says, first step was wild. Scree, the pre-release was fantastic. Lots of fun. Subro was good. A week or so of manic trial and then answers for those not so active was a good idea. Okay, that's good to know as well. We're trying to gauge sentiment of, it's fun to do the same thing with everybody else at the same time. But then kind of once it's cracked, just to make sure it gets shared, the news gets shared far and wide across the kingdom. Making sure hunters thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, because the mystery solving is not necessarily for everyone. I mean, those who participated seem to really enjoy it, which is great. But it's not for everyone. Not everyone even has that kind of time. So once it's been solved, it's nice to be able to open it up so that everyone can take advantage of the special loot drops while they're here, because they will be gone on July 26th.
Yeah, that's important to note.
So if you haven't done it yet, go out and do it.
I have plans for that. I'm finishing a map, and then that's my next goal.
Oh, you haven't done it yet. Don't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't write a support ticket in. We will not read it, Dave.
In 59 asks how you feel about someone stumbling into the answer to the first step. That was a little comical. You know what? I think it's sad because Norman, we were going to release kind of hints as it went. We
Yeah.
wanted to kind of start a little bit vague, just to start because there's just so many people trying to crack it all at once, and then slowly roll out some hints. Norman, and you phrased it so well. What was your hint that we never got to
So
release?
the hint was going to be let's see. New eyewitness reports have come to light describing the mouse as arriving well read and departing well fed.
That was it.
That
It's well
that
wordsmith.
was
I'm sad we didn't get. I think we were gonna either
I know.
release that maybe Friday morning we were planning or Thursday night or
Yeah,
something, but somebody
something
stumbled
like
into it.
that. It was so interesting though because like it's interesting that it was stumbled onto like that because watching the Discord like a hawk for a couple of days, like even beyond work hours, I just sitting there on my phone like because it was so captivating, and many people got very close. Like there were even suggestions about, hey, maybe you should try using extra rich somewhere. And I remember at one point someone was like, oh, but it doesn't show up in the trap effectiveness, but maybe I should just try it anyway. And I was like, okay, here we go, we're really close, we're really close. And then I guess they didn't or whatever, or someone else talked them out of it. It was so fascinating, this like roller coaster of like, oh, they're getting so close, oh, and now they're further away. And now they're getting close and now they're further away. So it was hard to know like when to drop the hint because you also want you to have that fun with it, right? But
So
yeah, and then of course it happens on a trap check, so it's that's mouse hunt, right?
yeah, it was a bit of a curveball. It didn't show up in the tem. Hey, even the game didn't think that was gonna work, right? And it was kind of that's the beauty of experimentation is you don't know until you try. So. I think maybe good food for thought. If we get feedback, hey, is this something you'd like to see us do more of? We kind of tried to do the best we could with the tools we had available. And kind of see how it goes, test the water. So for next time, maybe we put a little bit more time, effort, and polish into things, and come up with something that has, maybe stronger feedback signals. It's a little more involved, has a few more steps, but then we can incorporate more game-like elements rather than a hint in a news post with some guessing and experimentation. Maybe a little more of a mystery to uncover and find clues as you go.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it was a good trial run, to see that it engaged people and those who are interested in that sort of thing seem to take to it very well. And yeah, who knows? Maybe there's more we can do with it in the future.
Thank you for the horn reminder, Param. Hello, welcome, welcome. And Nicholas Hunt now. It's a good reminder. I always forget to sound my horn during Feedback Friday. Norman, sound your horn too.
No, I still got 4 minutes, 13 seconds left.
Cool. So keep the feedback coming on the pre-release, even kind of, hey, as the Folklore Forest comes out as well, and you kind of reflect on the whole experience. That'll be great food for thought. I'm sure we'll kind of be making it a topic of Feedback Friday when we work on the next expansion as well, and we start to think about, well, how does that want to be unlocked, and do we want to try this two-phase approach where the map piece, it's very straightforward because that's important to be able to get the map piece, and there's no grand mystery to solve to just access a new area. But then a little fun piece of lore and some some pretty good rewards to go along that are just available if, hey, I was here at the time. I got to experience something kind of special. A few more steps would be great, says Tony. Make it a longer mini event. Okay, so it seems like we're trending in the right direction. It's good food for thought for the next expansion.
It's really great to hear that you enjoyed having those steps, and yeah, it would be so much fun to have a multiple steps that like one clue leading to the next. There's lots we could do with that, so it's great that it's so well received. It was a lot of fun to make and to come up with for sure. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Nicholas in the chat there, the molten shrapnel based mystery. That was a classic. Can you guess the crafting recipe
Hmm.
mystery out there? And it kind of, it was meant to hit those nostalgia notes of things like that used to go down a little more frequently in the past. Well, we'll shift gears then off the mystery and we'll get into a little sneak peek at the Folklore Forest and some of the concept art and making of. And figured we'd start, share a few of the concept arts here that just went into the very start of the region. I think when did we start up, Norman? When was that brainstorming week?
So, yes, this all began in a brainstorming week, which was the first week of November 2020, where I think we had just finished development on something or other, and we had sort of we took a week off to like brainstorm new ideas about what the next big thing was going to be. So we all sort of broke up into teams, and there were many different ideas and pitches and documents put together, and this was one that I had spearheaded, and it got good reception from the team, and everyone really liked it. And it sort of got, I guess, voted on to proceed to the next steps, and then, but obviously it was a long time from there of working on it, in between other things, you know what I mean? Because there's always so much going on between content and events and mini events and everything like that, that it was sort of whenever we had a chance, I put together a really basic prototype off the bat, and then iterated and back and forth and back and forth, and I remember a very fun moment, which on a Feedback Friday, not too long ago, I can't remember exactly when it was, when Dave, you had done like a sort of a retrospective of, I think it was prototypes of the floating islands, and someone in the Feedback Friday chat noticed a folder called Fabled Forest, which was the original pitch title, and I was really excited to see, like, and a little nerve-wracking too, because like, oh no, like it's exposed, obviously you didn't play the prototype, but it was just a fun little, like, very subtle hint, and then it was a long time afterwards before we actually mentioned that this was in fact a planned area. But you guessed it, and you were right. So yeah, there was a long series of prototypes and design documents, a lot of back and forth. We're very fortunate that we have one of the artists on the team, Liz, has a very profound and impressive knowledge of folklore and fairy tales, and that has been instrumental in the design. She was able to put together this document early on of just basically breaking down all of these fairy tales, some that are very commonly known and some that are less commonly known, and authors and their histories, and it was such like a wealth of information to draw upon for inspiring us for everything from mouse ideas to gameplay to areas to all kinds of stuff. So it was really cool to have someone on the team that just already had this great knowledge of the subject matter.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so instrumental, kind of brainstorming and just throwing a lot of things at the wall, seeing what sticks, and what makes things stick is seeing the enthusiasm from other, just from the whole team, right? Kind of what gets people talking about it, and you just see the creative juices start to flow, and it really took off, and kind of what put a lot of momentum behind. Yeah, this is kind of the right direction to go.
Yeah, I guess one of the early signs was that, like, at each stage it was fun to work on, and that's an important thing. Like, it was fun to write the code. It was fun for the artists to create, like, from what they've told me, they really enjoyed, like, coming up with, like, some of the concept art you're looking at right now, and what it developed into. I mean, you've seen a few of the mice now, but there are some other really fantastic ones you have not seen yet. And yeah, so, like, they just kept telling me they just really enjoyed, creating all these things, and yeah, it was a fun process from start to finish. That was a really good sign.
Yeah, it shows. There's so much fun stuff and just coming through in the artwork, the gameplay, everything, the UI. Zach, sick horn gimmick. You liking the horn timer? Any hints at what new trap type might be offered at this area? I think we might touch on how the traps are earned, but we might leave that to be a surprise, or we'll get on that maybe a little bit later. Some hints at what they could be, but the exact details will be a surprise when the area comes out. Very best, I guess, with the mystery, finding a balance between looting a rare collectible and using the mystery task to find a rare collectible would be a nice thing. Yeah, it's kind of neat. I was here moment. Ultimately, that page, the enchanted page that you find from the Bookborn Mouse right now, it will be available in Folklore Forest, but it'll be relatively more difficult than find than it is right now. So you may still want to get it now, but if you're going to play the Folklore Forest, you'll find it along the way.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's some important lore in that page that ties very deeply into the sort of the narrative of the area. So it would be kind of a shame for someone who comes across the area a year or later from now and they just have no access to it besides looking up the description somewhere. So yeah, it will be accessible for those who haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah, very best says, wow, 20 months between brainstorming and release. Awesome work by the team. Yeah, it was kind of neat. I think, was it January? I'm going to say is when we planned out all the timelines and kind of scoped everything out. And that's kind of when more people on the team started to get involved and it kind of really ramped up to full-scale production, eh?
Yeah, well, January was when production actually began. You and I sat down in December, like early December, and sort of like planned out all the dates of like, okay, so here's we'll start here. We'll start at the beginning of January, and we'll roughly QA will start here, and this and that, and put the tasks onto the timeline. And then I had started writing the first lines of code like a week or two before the holiday break. Just I couldn't wait. But then yeah, full scale production started at the beginning of January, and yeah, we've been working on it ever since. Mind you, we've also been working on many other things, alongside of it. That's one of the really exciting things this year is that there's so many different things going on in the team. So while a group of us were working on this, other people were working on other things, other events, and other quality of life improvements. So there's lots going on the MouseHunt team. It's really exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting. We can dive a little bit into the farm, although I did want to give honorable mention here Giorgio's comment from the concept art, because even here, if I hide that for a second, you can kind of see the whole concept art there, and a lot of like paper doll almost effect. And sure enough, Giorgio chimed in with like, wow, those clothing designs are awesome. Can we have a tailoring mini game where you can collect fabrics, outfits, dress the mice up like mannequins? So that didn't quite make it into the final version of it, but I thought it was a pretty novel idea all the same.
Yeah, well, whenever we eventually create a character creator for MouseHunt, then we'll put it in there.
So we can get into the first area, or you can kind of do these in any order, to be honest, as well. So that's kind of a little takeaway. Hey, when the area does come out, there's no set order you should go in. There might be a way that's an order that might work a little better than others, but hey, we'll leave that for hunters to figure out. But we'll start with the Foreword Farm. It's a tactical area, so that's important to kind of keep that in mind. If you're preparing, make sure to take stock of what tactical traps you have available to you. And yeah, Norman, this one was kind of interesting because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the impression was it might be one of the more complex areas when it was being designed, and it turned out to be one of the more chill areas. Would you say that is how things played out?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like we thought. For whatever reason, when it was just in the design doc phase before even the prototype, it was just like, yeah, okay, this is going to be the active area, and we're gonna have to check back, like a little more often and make more strategic decisions. But yeah, in the end, it ended up, which is not to say that it's non-active. It's just a little bit more. The progression is more linear, right? It's very clear, like what you're funneling towards, what your goal is meant to be. So there are certainly like decisions to be made and strategies to be devised, but yeah, it is a bit more straightforward than the pond, which we'll get to in a moment. Which they kind of switched roles in some way.
Yeah. I found that fascinating. All the best laid plans during design, you think it's going to play one way. That's why it's so important as well. Just when we're designing things, to try and obviously you want to get your ducks in a row to start a little bit. You don't want to waste too much time, but it's amazing just how much when you actually start playing it, it starts to feel different, and you just start like sculpting it in a very different way. And that's a perfect example. The farm and the pond kind of flipped their roles, where the pond was just going to be, we were worried there wouldn't be enough decision making going on to be interesting in the pond, and it's the other way around. Now when I get to the pond, I'm like, I'm being very methodical. I'm like, what do I want to do next? I don't know. I got lots of options.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the things I like about the pond. I think there's potential for lots of different strategies that can arise from there. And it's not to say that the farm doesn't have strategies, but it's very different. I mean, you'll see soon enough.
That's nice. It breaks things up. Every area has its own unique kind of feeling. Is nice. Yeah. Sally says, so impressed with the imagination the devs putting it all together. Hey, likewise, I'm always impressed by everyone around me on a daily basis. Zach, will there be a mouse based on the big bad wolf, since there'll be famous villains in folklore tales? And lots of inspiration to draw from. I don't think any wolf in this set, though, eh?
Not yet. No.
Potato says lots going on, more content soonish. This will be kind of the big expansion for now, but event season's on the horizon as well, and we already have some irons in the fire as well. Yeah, the Foreword Farm. Did I spell? Nope. There we go. I didn't spell Foreword Farm correctly. It happened, Norm.
Oh no. Oh, you missed the E in this one. Oh, and okay, all right. Oof.
Yeah. Double.
I meant to proofread these slides too. I guess we just didn't get around to it.
I shouldn't be allowed to type anything ever. There we go.
I proofread the video at least.
Yeah.
But I missed the slides.
That's hard to change on the fly. All right, Foreword Farm should indeed read like the foreword of a book. All right, not to have puns lost on us here. The
Yeah.
backward barn. I don't know what's going on there. So he says,
That's
cool animation. Yeah, this is
good.
great. I think this is Andrew's handiwork. And again, this was an early concept or early version of it. In case you can't tell, the
Mhm.
barn is very like sketched together. It was an early render of the HUD just to have a placeholder asset. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
As you hunt, the plants grow. And so you can kind of see them grow up on the HUD, being closer and closer to being ready to be harvested, with the end goal is to harvest parable papyrus, which is going to be a very important resource that you use in these three areas. Vicky asking, is there a Foreword Farm map? So, Norm, I think the plan is as usual, eh? The map's a little bit later.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's something we typically like to come out with the maps and the scroll cases a little bit later because it can be a bit overwhelming that you don't even know how the area works yet or how to even catch some of these mice. That it's probably just a bit too much. That yeah, the plan will be as usual to sort of release the area and allow people to experience it and play it and get familiar with it, so that when the maps do come out, you'll know, okay, well, I need this mouse. I know how to get that mouse, and like here are the the different processes I need to go to accomplish those goals. And yeah, and it also gives us an opportunity to see how people play and what how things are working and what kind of goals people are going after and sort of address those kind of things. So yeah, it'll be something that'll be in the works pretty much immediately afterwards in terms of development, anyway.
A couple comments in the chat as well about like how the plants grow. They grow with every mouse you catch, correct, Norm?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. So if you miss a mouse, you don't lose any progress, but you don't gain any progress.
Yeah. Even questions, hey, is there something like the nest dust or wild tonic to kind of affect how quickly the plants are growing? And there is a little bit of both of those, eh?
Yeah. I don't know how detailed we want to get into it, but yes, there are both of those concepts exist in the farm.
Both plant better plants, and you can make them grow a little faster as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Josh asks, any thoughts on focusing on more new area releases as opposed to so many events? Maybe we won't go on too big of a tangent, but it can't happen overnight, but it is kind of something we're trying to move towards, is kind of just tone down a few of the events, keep some special ones around, the loved ones that are so popular and fun. But try to even have maybe some of the events be just kind of a smaller, like a week or two celebration, and then have some content come out shortly thereafter. So kind of putting some of that energy into more expansions while still celebrating some of the important dates in the life of MouseHunt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it takes MouseHunt it takes both, right? I mean, I certainly love participating in the events, but I mean, for me personally, it's this type of content that is the most interesting, especially to develop. To really like sit and think, like give something that people can really sink their teeth into that doesn't have a prescribed time limit.
Yeah, it's nice to explore new creative themes. No, he's kind of shoehorned into that event. Come Halloween, you gotta be thinking about ghosts and goblins, and it kind of he's like, but I want to be making something more cutesy than that, or I don't want to be working on scary stuff. So sometimes it could be.
Yeah.
Another farm question here. John in the chat asks, can we cue the plants just like Halloween?
Yes, you can. I might as well just say it. Yes, there is queuing.
Yeah,
it was a very popular feature at Halloween, and it made good sense to carry it over.
Yeah, it's a great example of one beneficial thing of events are, one of many things, is being able to try out new gameplay before you sort of commit to it being like, now this is like a permanent fixture. There's a little bit more room for experimentation because worst case scenario, maybe there was something a little off during the event, but hey, events are temporary. So it's good learning and testing ground for permanent expansions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, should we shift gears to the pond maybe? We'll dig into the next area here.
Let's do it.
And look at some more kind of concept art, making thereof in the Prologue Pond. And first, the most important question, did I spell prologue correctly?
Yes, you did.
All right. I got multiple wins today. I can feel good about it. But the pond is kind of classic MouseHunt gameplay, tiers of cheese progression. You can think of it like Froma, but done at a more interesting kind of challenge, a lot more depth to it, ready for someone of the experience of Archduke, Archduchess above, ready to tackle the pond. And I think, like we mentioned earlier, Norm, that was probably the most surprising thing when you started playing the pond, how different it felt to something like the Fungal Cavern, Froma, kind of those places that have that tiered cheese progression, eh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because on the surface, pun intended, it might seem very simple and straightforward, and like, oh, I've seen this before, in those areas that you just mentioned. But there is a very unique dynamic here that will certainly, I think it'll definitely be a bit of a learning curve. But when you understand it, there's a lot of potential strategies that can come out of it. And I think like when we first came up with the idea, which happened very organically, like as we were building the area, like we'd already had the dock and a lot of code in place already. And as we're building it, it kind of thought, what if we did this? And at first it was like, oh, maybe that's too complex. I don't know. But then as you play it, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like there's a lot of potential here for different ways to play, and different players can make different decisions depending on how active or passive they are. And neither of those decisions are wrong. They depend on your play style. And I think it's really cool to have that sort of it feels very empowering to be able to, like, I can play this area the way I want to play, and someone else can play the area the way they want to play, and we're both making the right decisions for us. And I'm very curious to see sort of what kind of strategies might arise in the community from this area.
Yeah, it is something very unique. Lots of questions in the chat if fishy fromage will work. No, the mice here in the pond don't have a taste for that. That's just the sunken city. It's not, and
Yeah.
you'll probably, when you take a look at the cheese, you'll know why. It's a very distinct sort of ingredient they're looking for that fishy fromage doesn't quite have. So,
Yeah.
but the brainstorm chum, it is interesting because you catch the same mice, but if you're chumming the water, they're carrying different loot. You've stirred things up a little bit, and it causes them to drop a different item as opposed to what they normally drop. And you can use that with any of the cheese. So that's the big twist. Just one relatively small addition, but it has a big impact. As you hunt with the different cheese, when do I want to use the brainstorm chum? When do I want to not use it? How does that play into what I want to do next? It's actually has a lot of depth to it, even though there's not too many variables on the surface. So.
Yeah, and part of, I think, what makes it work, or at least what we were striving towards, was that the brainstorm chum has one rule, and that is that it changes which items there are. It doesn't affect the quantities. It doesn't affect the mouse pool. It doesn't affect any of those other things. It literally just changes which item, without it, this item drops. With it, that item drops, and that's it. And then, the other aspects are, the mice are obviously attracted to different cheeses, and all of those all those familiar mechanics are still in place. But this new sort of twist is that, yeah, you control which item gets dropped by these mice that you're catching.
Yeah. It's a nice build. It's resource management is just the theme of this area. And so much in MouseHunt is, but this kind of takes that simple tiered cheese progression where you're managing those resources, and just that brainstorm chum just adds an extra variable that's it's just very interesting to decide when to use which cheese with which other resources. And I've been loving playing it so far.
Yeah.
Ron, and that's a good point there as well. The fishy fromage wouldn't work because those are saltwater mice. These are freshwater mice. All right, there you go.
Yeah.
I think that could be a canonical reason right there. Lynn's late to Feedback Friday. Hello, Dave and Norm. Can't wait for Folklore Forest. Thanks for stopping in, Lynn. Nice to see you.
And don't worry, Eileen. There will be maps. Just not immediately. But, I had you in mind at that point. I'm like, Eileen's not going to be pleased if there aren't maps. But so there will be maps, just not immediately.
Ronan asking, hey, previous Feedback Friday, the pond was themed to be the passive area. Is that still true? And, Norman, I'd say definitely, absolutely, it's still very passive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's important is that you can play it as passively as you want, or as actively as you want. And I think that's what's really interesting. And sort of what I was getting at before, it's sort of different strategies that, like, it's perfectly fine to just sit and like, I'm going to set this up and come back in X number of hunts and then make a decision and come back in X number of hunts or whatever. Or if you like to play more actively, like, which I tend to like to be very active, there are hunt by hunt decisions you can be making if you choose. And that's where I'm curious to see what strategies arise. But yeah, absolutely. It can be, you can just be sort of kicking back on the boat and going fishing, or you can be sort of watching every time you cast the line in the water and waiting for that big moment, So it's up to you how you want to play it. But it is passive friendly for sure.
Andrew asking if the Brainstorm Chum is a premium item like Bottle to Win. No, it's just right
No.
there in the game. It's sort of a bread and butter resource that you're going to be using continually throughout the pond. So you collect it,
Mm-hmm.
you obtain it right in the pond. It's not a premium shop item.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get it right from the HUD actually too.
Scrib asking if there are any new collectibles with the new area. You really like the page for doing the pre-release event. At least for now, just that page is going to be available in the 3 areas. But if you already have it, you already have it.
Yeah. No new collectibles yet. There's so many new items, gameplay items and resource items, but yeah, we haven't done any collectibles yet. But there's always the future.
Not to go on a tangent, but there's kind of another project still sort of in the works. It's kind of in development, but also kind of ideation. It's waiting to gel a little bit. That'll kind of add, not collectibles, but kind of push some different lore things you can explore, find, and add to your repertoire. Nick says, what does the boss mouse look like in the pond area? You'll have to catch
I was just reading that one
and see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that one's one of my favorites. So sorry, no spoilers there. You're gonna have to wait.
It's one of the fun mice to catch too in the putt. I look forward to that moment because it's so empowering. It's like a classic showdown moment, and it's a great time to use some charms that you've been holding on to, or the pond's all about resource management, and it's like that nice climatic moment of like, which ones do I want to use right here for this showdown? Owen's asking, which Folklore Forest mouse do you like the most in terms of like the artwork? Any stand out to you, Norman?
Oh, that is. It's like asking me to choose which of my children I like the best. I mean, come on, what am I supposed to say? I don't know. I mean, I I would say, artwork aside, I think the big boss of the whole area. I loved the concept of that. I loved coming up with the lore and the history of that mouse. It was so much fun. I went a little hog wild on the description, I'll admit. But that one, I love all the story involved in that mouse. As for which the art, yeah, I don't know. One of the things I love so much about the mice in these areas is that they're all so distinct to their region. It's fantastic. Like there are common elements that are shared between all of them, but each one, like as soon as you look at it, you immediately know, oh, that's from the farm, that's from the pond, that's from the table of contents, without any doubt. But also looking at them as a whole, you can see how they're all part of the same region. It's absolutely phenomenal work by the artist. The way, even between the 4 of them, they're all able to split up these mice and split up the areas, and somehow it's clear that it all came from one team, which is just extraordinary.
Joel, customize your fishing boat like you can your airship. We might get into that a little bit later when we'll take a look at all the HUDs, and you might be able to spot a way to customize that. Scrib asking about collectibles. They're suggesting little books to find. I think, Folklore Forest aside, just collectibles, we're kind of waiting to have time to give them some love, give them an overhaul, put them into sets, somehow make them more meaningful, or better feedback mechanisms of, hey, when I don't have one, how do I go about getting it, and sort of just polish that experience. Way back, if we go back 13 years, I think there's a great winter hunt, and we just blasted a bunch of collectibles, and at the time we never thought MouseHunt would go for 15 years, and so we thought, well, the more the merrier, right? Like this, but it just hasn't withstood the test of time. Now there's so many. They need to be redesigned in a way that it makes sense now to have dozens, if not hundreds of collectibles. You approach it very differently than if you're going to have, 20 and that's that. Because it's easy to remember 20 collectibles. It's pretty darn hard to remember 200. So the game needs to help you with organizing those a bit.
There's an interesting question here I'd like to address from Calvin. Have you ever had writer's block from writing up the lore and the storyline for this region? It's a really interesting question. I wouldn't say I've had writer's block per se. However, I do so many different kinds of things in in my job here that there have been times where I'm so in programming mode that I cannot fathom writing at the moment. And even when it came to implementing a lot of these mice, the art would come in and it would be time to implement it and be like, okay, well, I can put in the point value and the gold value and the rarity and then all this and that, but I cannot handle writing the description just yet. So what I ended up doing is sort of creating extra tasks for myself when I could switch gears into writing mode. And I think that was sort of crucial, because it's such very different mindsets of like, I need to be very logical and understand like, okay, well, and mathematical and how these things all go together. And it's like, okay, and now I'm ready to shift gears. And I think at one point I like took a week and I'm like, this is my mouse writing description week, and just like have at it. And it was great. It was a really fun experience. So it's like, it wasn't traditional writer's block in that sense, which I have experienced in other projects. But it was a recognizing that this is not the time for it. I'm not ready to jump into this because I want to make sure I give it all of the attention that it deserves. You know, so, and as a result, yeah, I'm very proud of the descriptions that are in the game.
Yeah. You know, that context shift can be tough, you know, when you're jumping between different things. That might be a good segue to get into the table, because it's all themed about writing.
There you go.
First to a question here, Andrew asking or somebody was asking about, the Zach has recommended traps to perform well in the new region. Maybe you can shed some light on the 3 traps we did most of our play testing with.
Yeah, for sure. So the majority, I've tested with a lot of different things, for sure. The majority of the play testing for the farm was using the Sleeping Stone, which is the first tier tactical trap of the floating islands, which is, you know, it's a hefty goal in itself, but obviously the second tier, the Slumbering Boulder, is a whole other stretch goal. So while I have tested with that, you know, the vast majority was using the first tier. I pretty much always use the Empyrean Jewel base, the Adorned Empyrean Jewel base, for all of my testing in all 3 areas, because I think that's a very sort of a reasonable goal. And that was actually a big part of the decision of how the area is unlocked, because we wanted people to be able to go to the floating islands, but you don't necessarily have to go to the Sky Palace. So if you complete the floating islands adventure, you get 1 jewel from completing the adventure, and you can then use that jewel to buy the base and then go into the Folklore Forest with it. So that seemed like a natural sort of progression. But so all that's to say, yeah, the Sleeping Stone in the farm, and in the pond, I used mostly the School of Sharks. Not the Chrome School of Sharks. It was School of Sharks and Queso Fountain, kind of flip between those two. And for the table of contents, mostly the Thought Manipulator, the first tier Forgotten Trap from the Floating Islands. But then also, again, sometimes the Infinite Labyrinth, and sometimes you know, the Thought Obliterator. But the majority was, yeah, that first tier trap. So you should be fine if you have those traps, and even if you have some a little bit weaker, there are ways that you can you know, improve your catch rate when the area comes out.
Oh, well, I'll shift gears into the table, the 3rd area here, the table of contents, and that is a forgotten area. That's kind of an important takeaway, and this is where you go. You're gonna be making the use of that ink and the papyrus you were collecting to be writing some stories, earning. What is that nice shiny gold item there? I love the name of it, Norman.
The Nobel Prize for Literature.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the end game of these 3 areas, is to be earning those to unlock some traps and other rewards.
Yeah, yes. Like, yeah, the idea is, you know, you go into this area and you I don't want to give away too many spoilers of what the storyline is, but yeah, you're meant to go in here and use the materials that you work so hard at in the other 2 areas, and use them to write fables and fairy tales of your own.
Yeah, this was the area that saw quite a bit of iteration. You know, we went through some different approaches where you were writing books to earn cheese, and then using cheese to write different books, and the kind of things got a little bit overly complex, or was a little hard to manage, didn't feel quite right, and went down to decide on that Derby curd, right?
Yeah, draft Derby curd, yeah, which some of you probably already have some, because the bookborn that you catch as the first step in the mystery dropped 10 draft Derby curds. Yeah, so that's the cheese making ingredient.
Some grubs and some curds already. Yeah, lots of love for the Nobel Prize. That was just a stroke of genius. I love that name.
Yeah, for sure. I think that may have been Liz's idea. I'm not quite sure. It was really good, though. It's really good.
It's great things. It looks like a chocolate coin. Delicious. Just, yeah. It's like, here's your prestigious prize. You're like, wait a minute, this is just a chocolate coin. And then you look up and the person who gave you the reward's gone. They're like, I thought I was getting a solid gold. Jonathan asks, what's the average catch rate goal when using those traps? Do you kind of know off the top of your head what kind of catch rates you're getting?
In each of the areas, oh, that's a good question. It's a tough thing to say because each of the areas has sort of different. Has different tiers of mice depending on what you're doing, like what cheese you're hunting with and what sort of state you're in. So each of those different states will have its own sort of catch rate. I don't really know what they are off the top of my head because they change so much. But yeah, like the earlier states or stages of each area will have a much higher catch rate with those traps, where it'll be, you'll be catching the vast majority of the mice. It might be like the high 80s or more or whatever. But then as you progress into the later stages, particularly earlier we were talking about sort of the mini boss in the pond. That's a tough mouse, So expect a lower catch rate on that, and but that's an opportunity to use stronger charms, because it's not something that's just in the pool all the time. Like we very clearly designed it, at least with the intention that you're sort of opting into these challenges as you go, so you know that, okay, well, when I arm this cheese, these mice are going to be tougher than the mice I was hunting previously. So I have that knowledge and I can equip myself appropriately to handle those challenges. It's not just like, oh, suddenly there's one super tough mouse that just sort of drags your average catch rate down. So that's the intention anyway, that you're progressing the more and more difficult mice. So all that to say is, no, I'm sorry, I don't know the catch rates off the top of my head.
It's a complicated question.
Yeah, it's a complicated question, yeah.
A few hunters getting hungry in the chat. People want some cheese on toast, or all this gnawing business, maybe. Start getting some stomachs growling. Aaron asking, which area would be a good area to start passive play when you begin? The pond, or is the farm passive as well? Yeah, I think either work. Maybe the pond's a little more chill.
Yeah, I guess... Yeah, I mean, it's certainly either of those areas is an appropriate starting point. It's really up to you. I mean, we sort of had to choose one of them to appear before the other in the adventure, but there's not really a wrong answer there. I mean, if you hey, when the area releases, I'm not going to be available because I'm going to be traveling or whatever, then maybe the pond might be a good choice to just set up shop and come back in a certain number of hunts, but. Yeah, I guess the pond is maybe more passive friendly than the farm, but either can work for sure.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, not to be too clinical, but I think the persona of the pond is resource management, so there's almost no end in sight. Like you could arm a certain amount of cheese and you can go till you're out of cheese.
Yes,
in
exactly.
some ways, there might maybe not, but you can definitely set yourself up in a way where I don't need to come back for 24 hours if I'm going to be away for a bit. Whereas the farm, is a little more appointment based. It's like, I know I need to come back after so many hunts, and you can kind of have some leeway of how long that's going to take. Maybe like going down a hallway in the labyrinth. You kind of know I'm going to have a decision ahead of me pretty soon. But the nice thing is with the 3 areas, maybe you are going to be away for a bit. You just travel to the pond, cast your line in the water, and all right, cool, pressure's off. I don't have to be back anytime soon. But then maybe you wake up and well, I'm going to be checking on my camp a little bit more often today. Maybe I'll spend today at the farm, live off the land a little.
Yeah, and then and that was like a really important part of the design that I really like, because sometimes it's important in MouseHunt, just given the nature of the game, that there is an area where you can just sort of go into and be a little bit passive when life gets in the way and that I'm not going to be available for a certain amount of time. Like in the Queso region, that's the river, right? It's like, if that I'm not going to be able to be making a lot of hunt to hunt decisions, well, I know I can go to the river and I can set myself up with some standard bait and I'll be good for a while and come back and collect some queso. And that's one of the big advantages to this sort of being 3 separate locations, as opposed to like our very, very early idea, which was it would be one location where you'd sort of change states on the HUD, that you could be in the middle of something and you're like, oh no, I'm not going to be available because of life for the next few days. So I can, I'm going to go to the pond then and I'll be safe to go there. And the progress in the other areas will just, be on pause, which is nice.
Reminds me years ago when the Labyrinth came out, I was traveling for a bit. I think I was away for 1 or 2 weeks. and I just set up in the fungal cavern to get some glowing Greer restock because it was pretty well me just at a coffee shop Wi-Fi just trying to sound my horn to make sure I get trap checks that day. I was like,
Yeah.
I basically I don't even know if I'm on a bad connection. I might try to sound the horn. I don't even know if it went through because the internet's really slow, and hopefully that kept me online. So it's kind of nice when you can move around and decide how active you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex saying people hunt in Queso River not all that often, but you can set up there. If okay, I
Yeah.
definitely don't want to have to touch the steering wheel for a while. Queso River, there's not very much to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's better than disarming your bait, at least, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so questions too. If the prizes will be tradable, no, they're not. And actually, it's a good topic as well. Different areas, kind of how you unlock traps and how you earn rewards. There's lots of different ways to go about it, and I feel like different players like different styles. Some players like many things they got to collect over time. Some players like chasing just one thing they need to make it. And so this area doesn't really have any tradables per se in its reward structure for the most part, eh, Norm?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, there are some, uh, tradable like premium type items, but yeah, in terms of the gameplay loop, there are no tradables.
Yeah, so we try. One of the nice things about MouseHunt with different areas, with it being episodic, is you can kind of try and make different areas that appeal to different play styles or different people, and it's nice too having three areas we can appeal to different play styles, although they obviously mingle. When it's kind of one area might work one way, the next area works a different. It's a way to try to find something that everybody will like.
Mm.
Shall we take a look at the HUDs?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's take a look. So here are the three area HUDs at a specific phase of each area anyway.
Hmm.
You got the farm, the pond, and the table of contents in the midst of writing quite the epic book in the table of contents right now.
Hmm. Yep.
Lynn Bomber asking about mapping. Have you already spoke about it? Yeah, we touch base on maps, kind of par for the course. They'll come out after the area releases. Let people get familiar with the area, get a few supplies. Otherwise you start a map. It's like, go get the last boss mouse. And it's like, cool, I'll see you in however many days, weeks, or months from now by the time I get to that part. That map just kind of is there for a long time. So they'll be coming afterwards. Nice looking HUDs. So many buttons. There are some buttons to collect.
Yeah,
Just,
lots
it
of
fit
clicking.
the layout nicely, so I went with the browser HUDs. I'm pointing the wrong way just to kind of fill the space nicely because they're easier to stack. But the mobile HUDs also are quite a nice sight.
Hmm. Oh yeah, very very beautiful. All the same art, just in a different configuration.
Yeah, it's great. There's a lot of the farm is fun. There's a lot of things that kind of change based on what you've done. When you arm cheese, you can see the background illustration of the farm. Actually, I really like the attention to detail. Liz did the background illustration, correct, Norman?
Yes, she did. Yeah, and I did not notice this until Dave pointed it out. So I'll let you say what it was. But
As soon as I looked at it, I was like, wow, look, you can see the Feroma Pagoda and you can see the telescope coming off the lab, and even the Burrows River is flowing right there. And then that was great even when Jacob, who illustrated the map, it has that perspective. I mean, even the farm is raised a little bit so you can see over the wall. I think I'm spoiling some of the map artwork, but you'll see that soon enough. But the way the map illustration came together, it all just kind of makes you feel like you're at a certain part of the world. I really liked it. Still
hmm.
do. I don't
Yeah,
know
oh,
how
yeah,
to past tense that.
yeah, no, it was extraordinary. Yeah, when you pointed it out, I was like, how did I not miss that? And I realized, well, it's because I've been just staring at numbers for weeks on end at that point. But it's just gorgeous. Yeah, and such great attention to detail.
Yeah, it's great. And similar, the background of the pond changes based on what cheese you have armed. It was a stroke of genius. I forget who made that suggestion, but your boat actually moves further out based on what cheese you have armed to nicely kind of
Hmm.
create a metaphor of like, why am I getting different mice with this cheese? Well, you're kind of getting into deeper waters.
Yeah, absolutely. Catching bigger fish.
Bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
Sharon says, I was on a trip when the mystery clues came out. Thankfully, a teammate helped me with the answers. Doing some basic hunting, some acronyms that I am drawing a blank on right now. Occasionally going past the island explored point, which, that's fine. You keep getting loot drops after you get finished exploring an island. Fabulous says the glossy buttons take me back to before 2010, before the flat UI. Yeah, those rainbow buttons. I had a lot of nostalgia with those.
Hmm.
Script says, "Ooh, what's burning?" Have we mentioned the name of that item, Norm? Do you want to?
I don't think we have. Yeah, sure, why not? That is called condensed creativity.
Yeah, it's a very useful item indeed.
Hmm.
Dal's saying this looks fun. Rift kind of thing going on in that third area. Well, not Rift themed, but definitely something intimidating is happening.
Hmm. Yeah, remember I had said that there are many different stages, and the later stages can be quite a challenge. And that particular one is in a rather challenging state, but fun and very rewarding.
Well, Bishop asking for a trap sneak peek. I think we're going to leave the exact details to be a surprise, something to discover when the area comes out. That said, in previous Feedback Fridays, I'm sure we've kind of alluded to what we often do in an area is the traps that you earn will help you as you progress to the next area. Now, that isn't always the case, and so there might be some traps that are kind of there to help you in your future adventures. But there is one, maybe if you don't have something appropriate, I'd kind of liken it to the Judge Droid trap. Hey, if you didn't go and get the Ember Core Prison, the judge was there. I was like, well, this isn't as good, but you can use this as a kind of an entry level for this area just to make sure you're well equipped. So one of the traps fits that theme, and the other two are kind of looking ahead a little. It's time to hunt. Hunting from the widget. All right, I caught a mouse. Limbomber asking, will there be infinite progression like Valor Rift, or does the area reset once you finish a cycle like the Floating Islands?
Mm. And the answer is both.
Yeah, it's pretty unique the way it works.
Yeah,
I can
that's
zoom in on a couple of these.
yeah.
In terms of kind of writing for as long as you can, there might be some similar overlap here when you're writing a story. And maybe even if you're observant, you notice it says volume 2, so that might kind of allude to where that's going.
Hmm.
Maybe too, I can zoom in on all these here. What do we got? The pond. See if we can make the pond a little bigger. Oh, that's not going to work. Let's go upwards. Sorry, Norman, you're getting obscured by the pond.
That's okay. You're obscured by the table, so it's only fair.
I mean, you can easily access, all your resources. Even just, I like the artwork. It kind of really sets the scene of where you are, and it's really fun to when you're playing it to watch it change and react to kind of what you're hunting with. To know, you get the right sorts of feedback to know, hey, what mice am I going to attract right now? Zoom in on the farm a little as well. I'll slide it down. Lots of great plots. Even I know some hunters in the chat noticing maybe some inspiration from the Halloween event. There's some similarities, but it has a lot of its own unique thing going on for sure.
Hmm. We learned a lot of lessons from the Halloween event that we were able to apply here, which was cool.
Table of contents looks like pressure building before an eruption. Yeah, not quite the same, I would say.
Not quite, yeah. I can see how you would see that, though. But, yeah, for sure. But when you play it, it's a little bit different.
Zach asks, will the new traps be gold demanding? Floating island traps are too expensive. They have a gold cost in the Trapsmith. I feel like that's appropriate for Archduke, Archduchess level trap. But then you also need some items to purchase a trap like we touched on when we're looking at those Nobel prizes. And those aren't tradable. So kind of you need some gold that you've earned, and you need something that you've earned in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Is the wisdom to level up higher in Folklore Forest than it is in the Floating Island and the Sky Palace? Asks the very best.
I'd have to look up the Floating Islands and the Sky Palace. I'm not sure what it is, but I think it should be comparable. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is in the Floating Islands and the Sky Palace, but yeah, it should be on par. It's appropriate for the Archduke, Archduchess rank.
Yeah, it's important to keep in mind as well, hey, if the Floating Islands have been out for a while, there's events as well. Like, it's probably been a very long time since you've collected cloud cheesecake. Or even as the jet stream comes through, you got the storm cells faster than you normally would, so that's kind of a big speed boost, a big shot in the arm for sure. And so it's not quite apples to apples, kind of comparing an area that you've had 2 years to amass a lot of supplies that you can bend to your will versus kind of starting from scratch. Andrew really enjoyed the mystery. What a fun adventure. How long does it last, or how long does it take for a new art after Jacob's finished it? So probably watching Jacob illustrate something on Feedback Friday to be approved and inserted into the game. That's an interesting question, Andrew. Maybe, Norman, you can shed a little light on just kind of, the process of how does a mouse get created?
Yeah, so I mean, there are different ways we often go about it. I mean, typically the mouse is created in the code before the art happens because, obviously we can't do much testing if we don't have any mice, so we'll typically make a mouse, and sometimes it'll have like a temporary name or something like that if we haven't decided on that ahead of time. And then, it'll be given it some points and gold and rarity so that we can start playing with things. And then the artist will begin the writing process. So like in the case of Jacob during Feedback Friday, typically, Jacob will from what I've seen before, he'll do some sketches ahead of time, and then he'll sort of finish it off and do the full render in Feedback Friday. And sometimes he might add some little touches later on, but typically when the art is complete and sent back to a developer, so in this case it would have come back to me, then the art will get put in, and then we can look at it and decide, okay, does the placeholder name still fit, or should we change that? And then and then the description gets written afterwards. So in a programming sense, the mouse already exists quite a ways before that. But when the art comes in is when it gets all the polish, when it gets the proper name and the proper description. So typically, like, the actual uploading of the artwork doesn't take very long, but yeah, that's where I was saying earlier is that, I would have all this beautiful mouse artwork coming in, and I was like, at the moment don't have the time to, give the proper attention to writing a great description. So I would put that off until I felt like I was able to shift into that to that context.
Yeah, we even shared some kind of concept art that goes a long way. As always in releases where the concept art phase kind of happens before those final illustrations, I feel like that just creates a nice sense of consistency, and the art direction turns out so much stronger. And we kind of shared some swatches there of kind of how things start to come together right at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So usually if you watch Jacob during Feedback Friday, the concept has been established usually anyway, and kind of fulfilling a character to fit that narrative and bring it to life.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll have a very clear idea of the mouse we want before they start drawing it, and sometimes we won't at all. And sometimes it'll be, they'll come up with it, and then we'll fit it in or whatever. So there's all different kinds. It depends on the thing. I mean, in this particular, for parts of this release, especially in the table of contents, I actually had a meeting with the artist at one point where we went through Liz's, compendium of folklore and fairy tales, and chose a lot of those mice ahead of time to make sure that they all sort of fit within their prescribed roles in the area. And we had this sort of big meeting to okay, well, here are all the mice we want to draw, themed after these various things, and then, okay, who's going to draw this and that and that, so that was a very that was a very unique process. It doesn't always quite work like that, but in that case, it made sense to let's plan it out ahead of time. And then obviously the artists then take it in their own way and add their own flourish and ideas to it and stuff like that. And of course, on Feedback Friday, the commenters get to add their own, ideas as well.
Yeah, Owen asking kind of, hey, the floating islands unlocks the Folklore Forest, but should you finish the floating islands before you go there? It's kind of your choice. And that was very intentional of how the map piece unlocks. Hey, you don't even need access to the Sky Palace. That's why we wanted the Paragons to drop those 3 items. As well as, you'll naturally find the map piece while you're working on the adventure, and you could kind of leave and go early, or if you stick out the adventure, you get a jewel, which you need to make the map piece, which will help you get there. And so there's some choices to be made based on kind of what your goals are. And we always strive to make different hunters make different choices, but they all feel like they made the right choice for their circumstance. That usually means it's an interesting one. Yeah. Some curiosities of how you unlock farm slots. And yeah, it's a good observation there. Hey, one of those plots on the farm are locked, and you need to unlock the ability to have more plants on the go. Katie M asking why looking glass items are item costs instead of requirements. And I think that's just kind of the new direction that we kind of want to move in for consistency.
Yeah, in that particular case, it also sort of just made sense in a narrative, right? That you can see very clearly that the finished product is, you know, is those three items combined. So it might be kind of weird if you get to keep the items and get the final product, right? The idea is you give them to the cartographer, and the cartographer assembles them and gives it back to you.
If you eat your cake, you no longer have the cake to look at, though, Norman.
Yeah, sadly, that's a fact of life.
It is already noon, so we should shift gears here a little bit. Let's cover the trivia question. As always, Larry will have a reward if anybody gets the answer correct, which is guaranteed to happen. This week's trivia question is, did I hide the answer now? I'm always paranoid. Let's check it out. Hold on.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Yes, I did. All right, beautiful. This week's trivia question is, which mouse is known to have turned on its own kind to have recently made a powerful enemy? 48 is the wrong answer. I'm sorry, KDM.
Close, though. That's pretty close, I gotta say.
Higher or lower, would you say, on the name of the mouse?
Higher.
We'd have to see what is mouse number 48 in the database. KDM, yeah. I think the very first guess that was an actual mouse name is correct. Zuriel the Eternal is correct. And that new enemy will soon reveal itself to Gnawnia. I'll put the reward link in the chat for your clicking convenience.
What's that? New enemy will soon reveal itself to Gnawnia. Curious.
There's something going on behind the answer. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Somebody rewrote my slide on me. I don't know. Somebody took control of the narrative. That's no fair. Somebody ought to put a stop to that, Norman.
Well, we must call upon the Hunters of Gnawnia.
And a brand new shout out to Cardboard Shark, as he's known on Discord, for the lovely new Larry gift claim flow.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you play on Facebook or whether you play on MouseHuntGame.com, you can claim that link. Mobile support is in the works, but there's some complexities to get that working in a nice smooth way, so it's coming. There's some magic essence if you click that reward. Or Leonard apparently got a rib. Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, 1 in every 10,000 Larry gifts is a rib, so... I like the comment there from Swift, the Norm Mouse. That was an early draft of the name. You know, that was the placeholder for sure, but we ended up changing it, sadly, so no longer the Norm Mouse.
And it's saying the mouse has a superhero landing pose. Yeah, actually, you know what? The silhouette kind of makes it look like that.
Oh, wow,
just kind of landed and smashed the ground a little bit. You know, like the Hulk just jumped off a skyscraper and just landed.
I won't be able to unsee that now.
Yeah. I'll have to see when the silhouette's revealed, because I don't think that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else you want to cover this week before we start wrapping up, Norm?
No, I don't think so. We've talked about quite a bit, but there's also still quite a bit we haven't said. And, you will all find out very soon, less than 2 weeks now. So I think it's better to leave those things as a surprise, I think.
Yeah, hopefully a few light spoilers, know what to expect, but there's lots to explore. 3 new areas in a new region. I have 2 minutes till I can hunt here. Let's see if there's some other questions in the chat. Looking at a large version of the looking glass. Sure, we'll expand the looking glass a bit for your viewing pleasure. It looks pretty darn cool.
Oh, yeah.
It's even neat to peer into what you can see in the glass.
Yeah, and this was a cool one too, because I know Jacob drew this on Feedback Friday, but he left out some of the details. Some of the details he waited till after Feedback Friday to draw in, so that was
spoiler
cool.
alert.
Yeah, as you can see the Empyrean Jewel in there.
Yeah, I omitted that during the stream. He's illustrating it live. I mean, the map, it might be worth just noting too. I mean, just the way kind of the technical rollout is, the map usually gets updated in the mobile app before the browser. That's just sort of the way it has to work. So, if you're observant, you might be able to sleuth yourself a map image a little sooner than July 26th, but may as well let
That's
that knowledge
true.
be known to everybody.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. Okay.
It's a fun little way to get excited, though, to see, this
Yeah.
is the area I'm about to go explore. And I just love the way
Yeah,
the
it doesn't
map just
really
looks.
spoil anything. You can't see the HUDs or you can't interact with anything, so it's just a little tease.
Yeah, some speculation on the trap rewards. Again, it'll be a surprise. We touched on it a little bit earlier on kind of maybe what to expect with those 3 new traps. But there'll definitely be some mighty fine traps. I know I want. There's one in particular I have my eye on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I know the one you mean.
Limbomber says, so the jewels are tiny. That's a fair point. That did just kind of inadvertently establish the scale of those jewels.
Or that's a gigantic hand mirror. Who knows? Who knows?
There we go. I don't know. I'll
Yeah.
have to leave it.
Yeah.
Nicholas compiling a summary on the forum. Thank you, Nicholas. Always enjoy the
cool.
diligent work. The summaries abound across many mediums. Amazing work, devs. Thank you, says Maria. Fantastic work. The whole team just knocked it out of the park. I know I'm just pleased with it, and I can't wait to play it for real, and I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy it when it comes out.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. Even, I've been playing it for so long and I still really enjoy playing it and look forward to doing it with my live game.
Alex says it's a tactical grip, so it better be like a meter long. Like just for
There you
long
go.
distance, all your long distance mirror needs. There's something you want to. A 10-foot tactical grip here. All right, there's my last Horn of Feedback Friday, and an Empyrean Empress has stolen my bait because I'm using a law trap right now. I might want to
Oh
switch that out.
no.
I need to get the stinger. Actually, I was debating whether I should do an opening of Empyrean Troves right now. I'm kind of finishing a map. I'm at 53 right now. Empyrean Troves in my inventory.
Oh
It is
my.
awfully difficult to not just open those immediately.
Wow, I thought I had a lot. I'm at like 16. But man, Dave, the
I'm gonna
hoarder.
finish off the last of those traps. Whoever had the idea for the jet stream and pushed that through, I like that person. I like them doing that jet stream idea. Seemed to work out well.
Yeah, that was a fun
Yeah, that
event for
huge
sure.
shout out to Liz. Absolutely, lots of great creativity. She's one of the great play testers on the team as well. She kind of just plays it through and through, and I think I speak for the whole team. We look forward to seeing whether it's a doc or a nice big chat message thread that sparks up of just lots of great things to dig into.
Yeah, when we first entered the sort of QA like beta type phase, Liz was kind to put together a really short, succinct 17-page document of changes and fixes and bugs, and it was full of detail and enormously helpful, but very intimidating at the same time. But we got through them all, so
Definitely, just
it's great.
helping making sure things go out smoothly. So, doing great work. Well, shall we wrap things up then? Anything else, Norm?
No, time to get back to work, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a quick lunch break and then back to the world of Folklore Forest to get everything all set to go. So again, Hunters, thanks for joining us. Folklore Forest coming Tuesday, July 26th, barring some emergency, but if that happens, we definitely keep in the loop. But we're definitely on track right now, so barring some unforeseen thing occurring, you can look forward to Tuesday, July 26th, when the Folklore Forest, brand new region, will arrive with 3 new areas in it. You need the legendary looking glass. If you haven't done that already, make that a priority. That's what you need to start the area. All the areas require Archduke, Archduchess, or above as well. So if you have those 2 requirements met, you're going to be all set for Tuesday. And note as well, check the latest news post. There is a bonus mystery where you can uncover some bonus lore and some nice little rewards, including a few ultimate charms and a handful of things that are going to help you maybe just start the Folklore Forest ever so slightly quicker. Get your foot in the door. A small boost there. So check the latest news post. It outlined kind of how that mystery works. You can go participate that because when the Folklore Forest releases, you'll no longer be able to experience that mystery or earn those one-time rewards. So you may want to go and check that out if you haven't already. Whew, that was a lengthy Feedback Friday. Thank you so much for joining me, Norm. It's a pleasure having you.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure being here.
Great. Have a fantastic weekend ahead, everybody. happy hunting. We'll catch you next time. I'll probably leave you out in case you didn't join us at the start. A few of the mice, and we'll spend you in about a minute of looking at a few of the Folklore Forest mice that are coming out. So have a great weekend, everybody. Once again, thank you for joining me, joining us. Happy hunting.
Traveled to this place from where I'd been. Spent nearly every penny on the fee. I bought you all the things I knew I'd need to draw you in and bring you close to me. I laid it all down at your little feet. Spoke a prayer, a wish, and crossed my heart. You are all I'm out here searching for, and when I catch you, I'll want nothing more. So I will wait for you. I will wait for you. I will wait and check my bait, and I won't leave for more than 15. I will wait for you. I will wait for you. I will wait and check my bait, and I won't leave for more than 15. This crazy world is full of ups and downs. One day you're the king, the next you sell your crown. And if you can't find that one joyful thing, then life and love all lose their meaning. And so I think on you both night and day, and wonder how to make you mine to stay, and follow you from the harbor to the woods. Oh, I'll do anything, you know I would. So I